Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Molly. I'm a maker based out of the San Francisco Bay Area where I live with my fiance and our cat Lola, and on this channel I talk all things knitting and fiber arts. I've been getting particularly into spinning recently, so if that's the sort of thing that you're into, I hope you'll stick around. Today we are going to be continuing my yarn audit and destash. I have 3 very large bins of yarn that I'm planning to go through today. That's definitely a faster pace than I was planning. My initial goal was to go through 1 box a month, not overwhelm myself too much. But here's the thing, the Bay Area yarn crawl is coming up from when I film this, less than 2 weeks. When you see this, probably less than a week. I'm very excited for it. My hope is that I'll be able to make it to all stores, but given that I think there may be more stores than last year, maybe not. It's possible 2 closed and 2 joined. So either way, there's a lot of stores. A lot of them are pretty far from where I live, and I also have a full-time job this year, so we'll see how well it works. I have a rough plan in place, and I'll probably be doing some pretty long days, but I want to do the yarn crawl. At the same time, I don't want to go too crazy buying yarn. So my hope today is to go through these 3 bins. This is one that is about the same size as the ones I went through last time. These 2 are underbed like drawers. They're probably like 3.5, 4 feet long by maybe 2 feet wide, and not super deep, but they have the bulk of my larger quantities of yarn. And I did actually go through and organize these, although I don't know if I put them all on the internet. These 2 bins that are under my bed, I have them double protected, so these are almost all, or maybe all, in plastic bags as well that I reuse over and over, but I've labeled the bags, I have info about the yarns, so it's more about weighing to get like an actual precise quantity of yarn that I have. And while I'm doing that, I want to be thinking about projects that I want to make in the future and ways that maybe I could supplement the yarns I have with yarns from the crawl. Maybe, for example, I could use some fluff to go with some of these yarns to make a particular pattern or a contrast color or even a main color, where I could use some of these yarns with other colors that I might want to buy on the crawl. I'll probably, as I think I did last year, be researching kind of what yarns are at each store, so I have a rough idea going in. Basically, I just want to have a plan and ideas of concrete things that if I want to buy yarn, I am looking for on the crawl, rather than just going in and like touching all the yarn and being like, ooh, this is so pretty, and buying whatever. I might still do a little bit of that, but I want to mitigate it. I want to limit that as much as possible. Although it can be difficult sometimes when I go to the stores that are farther afield from me and I see something that's really cool and unique. It can sometimes feel a little hard not to grab it because it's like, when will I next be in Morgan Hill, for example? That's where one of the stores is, and it's an hour and a half from me. I think in terms of my purchases, I'm hoping to lean a little bit more towards notions and accessories or that sort of thing, because even though I don't need those per se, I think it could be a nice way to get some mementos from various stores, particularly stores I'm not planning to go to again soon. They are at least smaller. They're easier for me to fit in my house. They're easier for me to carry around. They'll be easier for me to move when the time comes. I'm also, as I go through, going to make a to-do list of things that I want to get done before the crawl. For example, I can think of one particular thing that I definitely want to swatch before the crawl. Like if there's any colors I'm planning to use together, I think I might want to try those color schemes out to see if they'll work for me, if there's something that I actually like. There's one case in particular I can think of. So that's like the main to-do I can think of adding to this list. But if there's any other things I want to swatch, destash, pick up, whatever, before the crawl, I want to make sure that I have that on a list. And I'm also going to be grabbing some swatches out of, I believe one of these bins has swatches, and put them on little embroidery hoops. So I recently bought these 3-inch embroidery hoops, and I have more of them over here. My plan is to hang these on the wall. I think I've seen various people do this, and I think it could be fun, a good way to decorate and use my swatches for something and get them out of storage so that they're not taking up bin space. My fiance and I have not done much decorating in this place. I think when you're renting and you know that it won't be for a super long time, sometimes, depending on the kind of person you are, it can be hard to feel like you really want to go hard on decorating. We've definitely not been putting holes in the wall, which maybe if we'd done at the beginning of living here, it would feel better. But since it's like, oh, maybe we only have 6 months to a year here left, like, does it really make sense to drill holes now when we'll just have to spackle them up very soon? Like, I think we've been kind of maybe in this mindset for a while of like, well, this isn't permanent. We don't want to do anything that would be that hard to undo. What's the point of decorating? I have been working recently towards trying to make this space more livable and more aesthetically pleasing. Like, it doesn't have to be the most beautiful place, but I think something like this where I'm finding something to do with my swatches, because I don't really want to throw them away. Some of them I don't want to undo, you know, it's maybe a good way to use them. And I might like put them on, it might even be this wall or one of these other walls near me, and just have these on display. So when we find some swatches, if we find some swatches, I'll just be throwing them in here as well. And I've been sewing up the backs pretty in like a pretty ugly way, but it does keep it so that you're just seeing the front part. With that rather rambly introduction, let's go ahead and start with this bin. This bin is the one that I believe has some swatches, some project bags, some other things in it that I will want to do something with. It also has a lot of the yarn that I've bought relatively recently or plan to use for this year's Make 9. That is something I may actually move to the underbed bin, the white one that I cleared out last time. What I'm pulling out right now are yarns that I plan to use in my Stria cardigan by Andrea Mowry. I'm going to use Rosa Pomar Mondim for that, and I have 4 colors. And this was the yarn that I was particularly talking about wanting to swatch. So I plan to use those 4 contrast colors and the main color in the cardigan, but just in case they look bad together, this might be somewhere where I could supplement with a different color. I know at least one of the stores I'll visit, I believe maybe 2, stock Mondim, so that would be helpful. Basically, I'm just going to weigh out each of these skeins to see like exactly how much of each of the yarns I have. Because as I've mentioned before, I've run into issues of my skeins not adding up, essentially. If I try to use subtraction to figure out how much yarn I used in a project, sometimes I get bad numbers because the amount is different to start out with. Like, I start with a little more than I thought. I have a little more Mondim in here as well. I have 3 of this color, this light blue. I plan to make the Fall Frolic by Samantha Guerin with this color held with the darker blue. So I'm going to use this contrast color in both, and I anticipate I should have plenty. Now on my pre-crawl to-do list, I'm going to write swatch for Stria because I want to make sure that I do that, and I believe I will be putting these yarns in the underbed bin, so I'll leave, maybe not this one. I'll leave out the other colors of Mondim for now, and I'll put those under when I'm finished in that other bin. A lot of these are things that I've talked about pretty recently. I have this Knitting for Olive Merino in the color lavender blue. I have 3 balls, and I plan to make, I believe it's the Tonight Top by Lily Kate France out of this. That was one of my Make 9 items. This is another one I might put under the bed. All right, 164 of that. The Mondine was almost right on with all the skeins. Honestly, oh, mystery. Just found an extra skein of that light blue. So I have 100 more grams exactly than I just said. The rest of these are things that I've talked about recently to some extent. Some of them, again, are from my Make 9. Some of them are relatively recent acquisitions from the end of last year. This is Viking Fiber Co. Torrig sock, which is a 463 yards per 100 grams, 75/25 2-ply sock yarn. I have this in the colorway Wildflower Meadow. This is Woolen Works yarn that I got at Firebird last year during the yarn crawl. It is the fingering sock, which is 80% merino, 20% nylon, 100 grams and 400 meters in the colorway Birthday Balloons. I am planning to make a tee. Again, I think I will put that in the underbed bin. I have this yarn by Bay Farm Dye House. This is an Alameda dyer. I got it at Coven of Stitches, and this is the Puff Twisty base in the colorway Sweet Feast. This is Casey Knits yarn. The colorway is Moonbeam, and it is a fingering sock. Her 4-ply fingering, 463 yards per 100 grams. And then the last thing in this bin that is yarn is this Seismic Yarn Butter Sock, which is an 85/15 merino nylon, 437 yards per 100 grams, and I have it in the colorway White Opal. That yarn I have 2 full skeins and a mini on because I thought 2 full skeins might not be quite enough. So this bin, like, I'm keeping all of this yarn. This is a little bit more, I think, about making sure that I have the correct amounts of everything in my stash. In here I also have a yarn bowl. I unfortunately broke off the tip. There are swatches in here. I don't want to crinkle too much, but I guess this was my swatch bag, and later I will go ahead and throw these into some hoops. Lastly, I have this little pouch that I bought, and I have a couple of like stitch markers and stuff in here. These are like little Notion pouches. They have a keychain on them, and I've put a carabiner on them to be able to attach them to my bags when I'm like traveling and stuff. This bin is pretty empty now, which is great. I might end up at some point merging it. These are all mostly like fingering weight yarns. They were all fingering weight yarns, I guess. And I might merge this with one of my bins up there, the one I went through last week that had a bunch of sock yarns in it, because I think that might be a pretty good use of space. And I think I would have the space for it. These ones I'm going to put in that bin under my bed instead. So I'm gonna just scoot this over. Now, how to do these underbed drawers. I have them, they're literally in front of me, like right below the camera. Is this the method? This might be the method. I'm actually just gonna empty it, put all the bags on the bed. Off the top of my head, I don't think I'm gonna get rid of anything here, but some of these, again, I might move to that underbed bin. We'll start out with a bunch of Wool of the Andes. This is Opal Heather, Wool of the Andes. I feel like you can't see it super well, but this has like a bunch of colors in it, basically. I bought, along with a couple others, with the intention of self-drafting a sweater using intarsia to make like a V, like basically a sweater in thirds of color. I don't know if I'm gonna do that anymore, and I don't know if these colors, like there was a kind of a color thing and an amount of yarn thing, but I have this color, which I believe is Haze Heather. It's like very pretty purple. I have a bear one, and I think I was planning to use those 3 colors, which I don't know if that was what I really wanted. I also got this one. I have 4 of Fjord Heather. I'm gonna weigh these. I think these are prime yarns for doing other stuff with. Like if I could find fluff to use with this. Maybe I could like make a lento, for example. So I've talked about lentos before. I think in the end, a fingering plus mohair is not going to give me fabric that I feel super comfortable wearing. The gauge is 15 stitches per 4 inches. So maybe this is a good opportunity for that. These I plan to keep for now. I might want to add some fluff or something with these as like a crawl purchase. So I'm gonna set these off to the side for the moment. I might take like one skein out of each of those. I have some Knit Picks Bare Capretta Superwash. I was planning to use this with one of my hand painted or hand dyed yarns in a sweater, but I've decided not to do that. This I might put up for trade or sell or consider giving away. I'm not going to actively give this away, and I do kind of want to do some dyeing at some point, so that's something I'm going to sit on. This is Jaggerspun worsted. I believe there's some more floating around, like literally some of the shelves in front of me. Planning to make a shawl out of this. I think I'm going to try to have this one join the ones here in that bin under my bed. This is another yarn I'm going to put under my bed. These are different yarns. I plan to make the, I think, City Limits Light by Tanis Lavallee. This is yarn from the UK that I am hoping to do like a fade with. This is some Ching Fibers singles I got at Loop London. I believe this colorway was called Rosie. I got this my first time in London in 2022, and I started knitting up a sweater in it and then didn't follow through. This is also Ching Fiber. The reason it's in so many little balls, I don't know how well you can see, is because my winder broke and it was like ruining everything. And some of it I wound by hand. It was a whole ordeal. These are going to go back under my bed. This is Patton's 100% wool worsted yarn in a gray color. I might actually put that over to the side to be used potentially with my Wool of the Andes. I also have these 3 leftovers from my Slip Snuggle cowl by Casey Herlihy. These are Cloudborne Highland DK. These I have no immediate plans for, but they do feel like a pretty standard, like non-superwash DK weight yarn. I do kind of like, I've been holding on to them in case I want to use them as like a contrast color in something, and I think I'm going to keep doing that for now. Again, I feel like these bins are less like, what do I want to get rid of? And more like making sure that I know what I have in here, and if there's anything I want to do with it that's related to the yarn crawl, keeping that in mind. So actually, these Ching Fiber singles I have, I might put in the do something for the yarn crawl bucket, because I'm like a little hesitant to use singles in garments these days without something else held along with it. Speaking of, we have this. So maybe I'll look for like mohair to go with that as well. Speaking of, I have these 2 Wandering Flock yarns. This one, the pink one, I think is called Marie Antoinette, and I got this from Black Squirrel. And this one is Cosmic Tie-Dye, and I got it from Boston Fiber Co. back when it was Boston Bead and Fiber. So these have all been in my stash for a while, and oh god, I got this undyed fluff. It's alpaca lace from Black Squirrel as well. And I think they've changed their branding on these. My plan was to hold all of these together. I don't know what I would make with, well, I'll think about it. These, I don't want to get rid of any of them. And the final yarn is another one from my Make 9. This is 2 colors of Le Petit Lamb's wool. I'm thinking I might make the Market Henley out of it by Perfectly Knotted. I will link my Make 9 so you can see more about this. I have 2 colorways, Bonbon and Light Gray. Bonbon was just too pretty to pass up. Like, it's this gray undertone, I suppose, with like these colors on top, and then I have 4 of gray, and I will just weigh these to make sure I know how much I have. So I do have a decent amount of yarn moving out of the bin. I have 3 moving into my upcoming shortly, my soon to be upcoming projects bin. And then I have a bunch where I think I might take like a small sample to do some yarn store matching. Actually, why don't I just take one skein out of each of those bags, and then I can just stash them back in here so that I don't have to do it later and they don't just end up floating around somewhere else for a while. All right, time to repeat that with the other bin, which I might actually have some things I'm ready to part with in. Right off the bat, I think this is yarn that I will feel okay parting with. This is Cascade Ultra Pima Fine. I bought this to maybe make baby stuff with. I think that I probably am not going to at this point. I'm gonna weigh this and I'll offer this to my friend or maybe try to sell it. So that's 277 grams that I'm hoping to part with. This is Universal Yarn Cotton Supreme DK. I was planning originally to make a sweater for myself out of this. I'm gonna try to offload this as well. If my friend doesn't want it, I'm gonna add it to my gift bin. This is 2 different yarns, cotton blends. The first one is this worsted weight comfy cotton. It is, I think, yeah, 75% cotton, 25% acrylic. This is for baby stuff, so this I will put in my like gift area. The rest of this is Queensland United, which is a wool cotton blend. I was planning to make sort of a sweater design out of this, and I will hold on to it for the moment. This is Golden Sheep Fibers Tencel Fingering. This company doesn't exist anymore, and I want to use this for a winter or a summery top. This is Wool of the Andes Sport. This is We Are Knitters cotton. I bought this with a kit. I don't want to make that top anymore, but I will hang on to this yarn for the moment. These are Malabrigo Mechita leftovers from my current mood. I will put these up for to trade or sell. If anybody decides that they want them, they can have them. Otherwise, they might end up going. I know that at least Busywork Craft Supply in Martinez, which is one of the stops on the yarn crawl, has like a little free library for craft stuff. So some of these might end up going there. Now, I have a whole crap ton of Cascade Heritage Wave from my Shifty. I think I'd like to keep this. I plan to probably make Shifty adjacent or like color changing Andrea Mowry patterns out of these in the future. These can stay. I have another bag of Cascade Heritage Wave. All right, we're in the home stretch. I have 3 more things. The first one is these 2 Cloudborne yarns, Brushed Alpaca Sport and this single ply merino fingering. I was originally planning to use these to make a top together, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I'm trying to decide if I want to part with these for a long time, and I still haven't used them. I'll offer these to my friend. I don't like really need them, but this Brushed Alpaca Sport, what is this? 89% alpaca, 11% nylon? I think this could be kind of fun. So I'm gonna keep this. Down to the last 2 quantities, I have this Farmer's Daughter Fibers Squish Fingering. I was planning on making a Viva Cami by Ksenia Naidion with this. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore, but I do want to use these. I got these at Farmer's Daughter Fibers, which was a fun trip. And then lastly, I have this Kelburn Woolen Scout. I think I have a little bit more of this yarn floating around. I've been toying with the idea of making a pattern out of this. You may see that in the future. Either way, I am holding on to this. Means I have 3 lots to give away out of all of this. Not as much this time. I'll give you the rundown of the yardage of everything. In the meantime, I'm going to be doing some speed organizing for myself to talk over. It'll be speedy for you, not for me, unfortunately. I know I said in my last video that I am planning a giveaway. I still am doing that. As of filming, that video has not been up for very long, so I'd like to give you all some more time to offer suggestions of what you like to see in a giveaway, let the idea simmer a little bit. So if you have any suggestions of things you like to see in a giveaway, please feel free to share them with me. I will probably do that in the next video or the one after. I have quite a lot going on in March. I have some wedding things to do. There is the yarn crawl here. Lots of things this month, so I anticipate being pretty busy, but there's also a lot of things I want to be able to film and talk about, in particular the yarn crawl, some projects of mine that I'm excited about, spinning that I'm excited about. So you'll probably see me a couple more times this month, and maybe towards the end I will be preparing for that giveaway a little bit more seriously. So if you're interested in that giveaway, make sure to subscribe now and turn on notifications so that you'll know when that's coming. If you have any opinions on things you like in a giveaway, leave those comments down below as well. In any case, I hope you enjoyed coming along and touring my stash a bit with me. This time was a little less decluttering, a little more yarn auditing and preparing. I'm glad that I set some gift knit yarn aside. I set a little bit of yarn aside to give away, and I have a bunch of yarn to put into my work on this soon pile or bin. Things are moving around, things are consolidating a little, things are getting used up. I have been knitting a decent amount. Hopefully, as things move forward, I will be drowning in less yarn. Once I do move, and hopefully I have a slightly better yarn organization system, I'm excited to be able to share with you how that looks. But for the moment, things are still pretty piecemeal, but it's a work in progress, and that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Once I finished tallying all of my yarn and writing, my first order of business was to organize it because I had yarn everywhere. So anything that I wanted to keep, I wanted to be able to put away. In those 2 underbed drawers, I had moved a lot of yarn out, so I was actually able to, with a little bit of finagling, fit everything into one, which was really exciting. Now I can use the other to maybe move some more yarn into? I haven't quite decided. Overall, this batch of yarn was 10,032 grams and 35,142 yards. That is about 20 miles or 32 kilometers. It's much more yarn than my first destash video, which does make sense since this really is the bulk of my yarn. I don't have too much left. I am giving away 1,031 grams and 2,983 yarns, which makes up a little over 10% of this batch by weight. I have 74 grams and 311 yards to trade or sell, but I'm not going to be trying very hard on that one, and I actually forgot to take pictures. My phone died as I was about to start putting my swatches in the embroidery hoops, which is too bad, but I did finish that up and put the rest of my yarn away in the to be used soon underbed white bin, and that's it. I'm so happy that I'm having this time to organize my yarn and go through everything that I have. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.